Welcome to the Bird Joy Podcast. I'm Dexter Patterson.
And I'm Jason Hall. This is the podcast for all the bird nerds and the homies out there that want to find a little bird joy.
You already know. Are you ready for some bird joy? Let's go.
Let's go. So, we are in the presence of some heavy hitters today. We have been blessed by some excellence on our podcast today, folks, and I hope we can get to all of it in this hour. I want to welcome Lauren D. Pharr and Dr. Murry Burgess to the podcast today. Welcome, you two. How are you?
Hey, doing good, hanging in there.
Doing good and hanging in there. I will echo that. Thank you for having us on.
Awesome. So please excuse me as I introduce you both and try to make sure folks really understand the level of excellence we have here with us today.
Nope, you got it, because that way we won't have to. So go for it.
There you go. Right? Save your voices.
Let's work for us.
Right? That's right. Is it Dr. Burgess or Murry?
Yes, Murry, just Murry.
Just Murry? All right. Yes. I mean, listen, you want Dr. Burgess, I'll give you. I mean, I didn't get a PhD.
Hey, give her those letters. Give her those letters.
I know, right? Dr. Burgess.
Let's go ahead and put some respect on her name right quick.
Right? I mean, all that work. Lauren and Murry are co-founders of Field Inclusive Incorporated, seeks to amplify and support marginalized and historically excluded individuals in the outdoors with a specific focus on field biologists. Murry is the CEO. Lauren is the CFO. Individually, Lauren is an avian ecologist currently out of Raleigh, North Carolina. She has a BS in environmental biology from Wingate University, a master in fisheries, wildlife, and conservation biology from North Carolina State University, and is now a PhD candidate at NC State pursuing her degree in fisheries, wildlife, and conservation biology. Her research focuses on studying the effects of climate change on nestling success in the federally endangered red-cockaded woodpecker RCWs. Lauren has also appeared in outlets such as National Geographic, Wired, and PBS Sci-NC. Lauren is an advocate for Black and historically included minorities and serves on multiple committees, including NC State University's Forestry and Environmental Resources, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. She also is the recipient of the North Carolina Wildlife Federation's 2023 Governor's Conservation Achievement Award for Young Conservationists of the Year. Man, talk your talk. Wow, that's amazing. This is the highest honor in the state of North Carolina in the wildlife space. All right. So that's one superhero. All right. We're going to move to the next superhero now.
We appreciate you. Right? I appreciate you.
Dr. Murry Burgess. All right. Urban ecologist and ornithologist, tenure-track assistant professor at Mississippi State University. Dr. Burgess comes to us with a BS degree in wildlife fisheries and aquaculture from Mississippi State, also a PhD in fisheries, wildlife, and conservation biology from NC State University, and she also earned an associate wildlife biologist certification from the Wildlife Society. Her current research is in urban ecology and ornithology with a focus on the effects of anthropogenic stressors on songbird physiology. She is also a children's author with both self-published work and a children's STEM series with Little Brown Young Readers. First book of that series, Sparrow Loves Birds, features a little Black girl learning how to identify birds in her suburban neighborhood. Wow. Okay. We have to have some conversations because I think Dexter and I have admired both of you for quite some time. And I learned of you both through Deja Perkins at one point. You had put me on to both of you, but had no idea at the time that y'all were getting ready to start Field Inclusive, right? And so once that popped off, I was like, oh, they are real serious down there. And so we wanted to bring y'all on today just to talk about some of this work that y'all put in, why you've put it in. And so again, welcome to the podcast. We are so thankful that you both decided to spend some time today with us.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us. We're excited.
Yes. So, obviously this is the Bird Joy Podcast, and we're going to get into as much bird joy in every aspect of this discussion today. But we do want to start with Field Inclusive. And your mission says Field Inclusive strives to provide tangible and actionable improvements in the natural sciences by addressing social field safety issues related to equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility Safety, we seek to support all field biologists as well as those working and recreating in the outdoors through identifying and addressing social field safety issues, developing social field safety resources, and supporting marginalized and historically excluded researchers through financial aid and experiential learning opportunities. This is obviously an amazing mission. Can you both just talk to us a little bit about how you two came to the place where you realized you needed to start such an amazing organization?
Yes, well, we recognize this gap that exists in the natural sciences field. We'll talk a lot about field safety in terms of things that you encounter outdoors, like dangerous animals, venomous snakes, ticks, poison ivy, all of those things. And it was just missing this aspect of, well, people who look like you and I, people who are marginalized or from an underrepresented community, encounter other safety issues that don't arise from dangerous animals or plants, but from other people who we might encounter in the field. And no institutions that we knew of, including our own, had any type of policies or procedures to address this type of safety issue. And so Lauren and I said, hey, we're not busy with our PhDs. Let's go ahead and, start a nonprofit about this.
So literally,
if you needed any more proof that they're superheroes.
Look, and so literally, I remember that day well because I was in the midst of doing my field work. So I just got out of the field. I was taking a nap and everything. And we were just talking. And at first we were just going to have it be a week. So, we have our field inclusive week that we do every year, which we still do. Absolutely love it. That's, again, seeking to bring awareness to these issues that we're talking about in regards to, social field safety and inclusivity, diversity, equity in the outdoors, all that fun stuff. So we were essentially going to just leave it for a week. And then Murray was like, we might can go bigger than that. And then I was like, you know what? You're actually right. So then Murray got all the paperwork together and I'm like, oh, we actually doing this. Okay, let's go. And so it did not take long for everything to get approved. And we were just like, wow, we're an actual nonprofit. Let's do this. It started from there. And I mean, honestly, we have had a blast ever since. It is definitely work. In these last 2 years, we have seen the huge impact that it's made in all of these areas. We've had multiple universities and organizations come to us, ask us for advice, ask us to give the workshops that we do, which is bringing awareness to, again, the issue as Murray described, with social field safety. And on top of that, we've grown to, incorporate and have so many different sponsors and, sponsor organizations that are, wanting to support and provide for our mission. So through that, we're able to provide financial opportunities such as our research grants and our travel awards and our fellowships. And then we're also able to incorporate some other additional programs. Here in Raleigh, we have our Beginning Birders program that we do with the Wake Audubon Society. And they have just stepped up to the plate and that's been going fabulous. Literally, it is introducing communities that we would rarely see outdoors, birding. We cater towards groups like Outdoor Afro and the LGBT Center here in Raleigh. But on top of that, we also cater to allies because the issues and the concerns that we are talking about and we're wanting to, continue to get, addressed and people become more aware about. We also want our allies to hear it because our allies are a huge part in, continuing to make sure that these things are incorporated. As Murray said, we were just doing our PhDs, nothing out of the ordinary. So let's do this.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's why I use the word excellence because it's if you go to the Field Inclusive website, there is so much going on and it is so heartening to see the number of sponsorships that you have and just so many different programs there. I really feel like it is a one of a kind institution. The level of focus that you all have, the way you've stayed on mission is really a great example, I think, to other young Black and brown scientists that are trying to find their way. Now, granted, I'm sure we're not saying, yes, start a nonprofit while you're working on your PhD. But
or are we? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, listen, right?
Hey.
Like, that's where I'm like, there is the sky is really the limit. And, for Dexter and I think both of us are not in, as professionals in that field of ornithology or field research or anything like that. So we both find it pretty fascinating, especially as we're going out and at our bird clubs, we're having similar conversations around safety in the field. Right. And I think it was you, Lauren, and we were talking back and forth. I bought some gear. I got my shirt, my fanny pack back there from Field Inclusive.
We love to see it.
Yeah. Right. But I think I was asking you a question around the bright orange shirts. Like, can we buy those for wearing them on our bird club walks versus field research? And like, it really, the messages, they overlap with a lot of different places around safety for Black and brown folks or LGBTQIA folks in the outdoors. And that's really, I think, part of the specialness of this is like, it's when folks talk to you, when I've heard you both talk, it is easily transferable into the rest of our lives. Sure. Was that always part of the design, or did you end up kind of coming up on that?
A bit of both, because I know we always wanted to focus on the professional academic space just because that's where we were and that's where we saw that initial gap. But definitely realizing that this applies to anybody just recreating in the outdoors, anybody who has that stigma attached to them of like, oh, other people think I don't belong here just because of the way that I look. Like, this is kind of a universal policy that can apply to everything.
I agree with that. And I want to go back to a tidbit that you said, Jason, about, you both not being professionals, but give yourself some credit because you are. Like, I heard that too. I heard you not both professionals. Exactly. You both are still, you're incorporating and you're embodying what Field Inclusive is about and what we stand for as Black individuals in these spaces. Like you said, you're going into your bird clubs, you're preaching this story too. That goes a long way. Like,
and teaching so many people.
It does.
So important.
It does. So I want you to sit back and give yourself some credit for that.
No, listen, our job is to make y'all blush. It's not supposed to be the other way around. Okay. All right. I don't know how to take compliments. Is my cheeks getting warm? I don't know. So like, on your, thank you for that, by the way.
Thank you.
On your website, you have 7 goals of the organization, right? And they cover everything from amplifying marginalized voices, field safety training, field safety opportunities or field opportunities, scholarships, equity, accessibility, and even financial compensation. And we talked about these being common themes, that we find in other spaces. Can you talk about those, particularly in your field inclusive space? Like, how does something like financial compensation, how is that a unique point of focus that you both wanted to have? Like, was that always like that, or was that something you both discovered as you got into your own PhD journeys?
Yeah. I would say it's a little bit of both. Like, in saying that, especially when you just hit the field and get into the field of wildlife biology, right? You begin to learn that there are not that many opportunities as far as like internships or fellowships go where you're not fairly compensated for your time or compensated at all. And that is one of the, things about entering, or others who are thinking about entering the field of wildlife that kind of hinders them, is that, I have this passion. I love wildlife. I love nature. How am I going to make a living? Like, I'm scared about, being financially stable and making a living. And then on top of that, put, okay, well, with all of these jobs and positions, they're like, well, you need to have experience. All right, well, let me go out and try to get experience, do an internship or, do a fellowship. Oh, wait, I'm not being compensated, or, oh, that's all I'm making. Huh? And then you start to realize that. And so I think for Murry and I both, and especially when we're talking about marginalized and historically excluded individuals in our backgrounds, we need all the support that we can get. So it, from that point on, there's plenty of people, that we've seen continuing to advocate for fair compensation and the financial stability when it's getting into the field of wildlife biology. And we don't want people to be hindered by that or stray away from the field simply because of, oh, I'm not getting paid or I'm getting paid little. And so with the support that we're able to give to, our award recipients, we also don't put a cap on, what the award amount can be used for. So there's a lot of scholarships and awards that are like, oh, you can't compensate your field techs, or, just trying to, putting limitations on what the money's being used for. And we've seen through ours, that's been one of the huge things that people have been thankful for, is that we are very flexible in what they can use the money for. So we've had award recipients that have been able to pay indigenous leaders who helped her with her research and, trying to find this tropical frog, right? For example, one of our wonderful award recipients, and she was able to, to compensate them. We have some that are using the money for field training for their techs. So like field safety training, certification training. And a lot of that you don't see, but we're hoping that through our organization, we not only can continue to offer it, but we want other organizations to see what we're doing and continue to advocate for, for things like that, because that financial compensation is huge. Financial compensation is huge. And then also, getting there and your professional development opportunities is huge as well.
And if you just think about it for a second, we even call it field work. Like, we're doing hard physical labor a lot of the time.
It's work.
It's work. Like, we deserve some money for that.
Nah, we're just outside playing with the animals. It's fun.
Listen. We're gonna talk about climbing the tree with the ladder and everything. But hold off on that for now. We're gonna talk.
Oh wow! Yeah, I think they don't see it as work, but I also think what you all are doing is eliminating a lot of barriers. I know when we first started our club, we're not full 501c3 Jason's, and we have a fiscal sponsor, which is our local Southern Wisconsin Bird Alliance. And one thing that I've always been super, super grateful with them is they didn't enter the relationship to want to control our club. They wanted to make sure that we had the resources and ability to fulfill our mission. And when I think about what you all are doing, I think about that partnership that we were lucky to have, where it was like, all right, we really believe in your mission. What do you need to get that done? Go do it. That is so liberating. That is so like, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel validated. And then you can just worry about serving the people you want to serve.
There you go.
I hear that. And it's music to my ears, because not only are you giving people the resources, but you've kind of flipped the table to where now the people who typically haven't had the resources are now giving them out. That to me is a game changer, where now you all are the decision maker and putting people that you serve in a position to be successful. How does that feel? Because that is a complete game changer from what I see in our space.
It's so incredible.
You brought up a great point, right? About, your partners and your sponsors. Honestly, we wouldn't be where we are today. Half, like 50% of us wouldn't be where we are today, because Murry and I are, 100%, but I will give our partners some percentage here. But like, let's just say, like half of what we are today we would not be able to be where we are and do what we do, honestly, without our partners and our sponsors. And you get to that point where, you've talked with people enough, you develop these relationships, you get to a point where you see and you can tell those people who are genuine in your mission and who want to support your mission. And, it's not all for clout, or it's not all like, oh, let us just check this DEI box and saying that we helped out this little nonprofit organization run by 2 Black women. I can tell you that all of the partners and sponsors that, you see with us, they have been with us, 1, since the beginning, and 2, they are so eager to continue to help us every single year. And it's phenomenal. For Murry and I both, I will say it was easy for us to tap into the bird spaces since we are bird nerds. So a lot of our partners and sponsors that you will see are birding organizations. However, we do continue to let people know that we are field inclusive. We support any and all field work. So we have had various partners come on, like North Carolina Sea Grant. We've had, various like shark organizations come on board and provide us stuff for our field gear closet, which has been phenomenal. So we are continuing to, preach about, like we are here for everyone. And, we're not just little bird nerds, although we love the birding organizations. We do represent any and everyone who are doing field work, but it's a wonderful feeling.
Yes. And this for me has been just this incredible recognition of how financial compensation leads not only to financial compensation, which is important, but this recognition of who is doing the work. Like that example of the indigenous leaders leading you through the rainforest to find your study species. Those people often don't get credited in the scientific world as this integral part of the work that we do. And so seeing that start to get recognized as like, this is a real job, this is real work, and that can lead to eventually real recognition opportunities for others as well.
That is, I mean, just the level of depth and thought, and I can feel personal experience in that as well. Seems like it has guided quite a pretty focused mission. And I want to take that and kind of pivot to Field Inclusive Week, right? Because I knew it was coming up, but I didn't check the agenda. And then when I checked the agenda, I was like, oh man, this looks insane. I think, Lauren, you mentioned it, January 12th through 18th, 2025. Yes. And you can find all these details at fieldinclusive.org. But man, y'all got some hitters on here. Some amazing panels through the week on field safety, accessibility, inclusive LGBTQIA plus webinar panel. There's a nature walk. Oh, and by the way, you're just going to end the week with Dr. J. Drew Lanham and Matthew Morgan, like it's nothing, right? And conversation about
we're going out with a bang with my great friend Drew.
Listen, I certainly encourage folks, like even if you're not a field ornithologist or a field biologist or a field scientist in general, this week is going to be tremendous, right? And I got to ask, like just selfishly, like which ones are you two most excited about in terms of the events through the week? I know you're excited about all of them.
Yeah.
Like which one you feel like?
I would have to say all of them. No, I do. Well, and I do want to touch on a point that you said, so this year we incorporated something new, which is offering workshops. We haven't done this in previous years. Accessibility is a huge one that we do, like a huge, event that we do. It's probably our most viewed one that people come to. So we wanted to bring in some people who could lead an accessibility workshop. And then we'll be doing our field inclusive, our social field safety workshop. So those are both exciting. I would say for me, definitely the one with my great friend Drew, of course, 100%. I have a wonderful moderator that I've known from my area, my stomping grounds of Charlotte, North Carolina. So he will be doing a moderated conversation with Drew. So I'm excited about that, talking about Autobahns, talking about not just the great things about Autobahn, but the controversies. That's going to be a really great one to tune into. And then also, I would say our nature walk, because last year was our first year incorporating a in-person event. Since we're based in Raleigh, we've kind of, done it here in this area. But the people who came out to that first event, they were really thankful to, again, have a space where they could just gather and just go out in nature and see some birds. For this one, it'll be the same deal, but it's half a day. So we'll have like various food trucks going. We'll have some kids activities. We'll have tons of different nature walks. So not just birds, but plants and insects, everything like that. So that's what I would have to say. I'm most excited
I love how Lauren listed everything as her favorite. Like,
literally, if you take everything that I said, you can literally just say like, it's like in
Hey, that's the sign of a great event, folks. So if you are anywhere within driving distance of Raleigh, North Carolina, January 12th through 18th, just absolutely amazing. So thank you.
Of course. And all nature lovers welcome. You do not have to be a professional in the field. All nature lovers welcome all throughout the week. There's something for everyone.
Get outside, folks. Get outside. It is for you. That work, I mean, obviously the work you all are doing there is fascinating. It's been 3 years already. That's crazy. That's crazy. Right?
Yes.
So I'm like, wait a minute.
3 years. Yeah.
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years.
That work is only part of all this amazing work that you all do. Let's talk a little bit about your personal research. Murry, your work on light pollution and barn swallow chicks y'all know that little emoji where your head blows up? That's kind of what I think about when I think about Murry's research. What's been the most surprising finding in your research?
Yes. So the most surprising thing, I think, is that my expectation was that the chicks that are growing up in all of this light pollution would be kind of left behind and at this developmental detriment. But what I'm finding so far is that they're actually fledging faster. They're leaving the nest sooner, getting a little bit of a head start type of thing. And so not saying that that's either a benefit or a detriment right now. It's just this exponential growth curve that I'm seeing has been the most surprising to me.
That sounds amazing. Now, why do you think that we can go backwards there? Can we correct that, or is it more just letting the birds kind of continue to adapt to it as we go? Like, have you seen anything in the research that says if we shift our practices, that they return to a homeostasis of when they would actually fledge and leave?
See, that is a great question because we don't really know yet. Light pollution in general is such, like, if you think of the timeline of evolution, is such a very new thing in the world. And there's just not enough studies right now to see like how much of a long-term effect this is. But I will say that light pollution does have a simple solution. Flip a switch. Like that's literally all you have to do, really. Turn off the lights, change the types of lights that you're using to be more bird friendly. Very simple solutions for this global problem that we're having.
I love it. You see that a lot now, right? Like during migration time, you'll see lights like out. A lot of
lights out.
Lights out. A lot of the big organizations are posting about it and really kind of encouraging that. I just love that. I love seeing that in the real world. But then behind the scenes, there are people trying to figure this out. And like you said, there aren't a lot of people trying to figure this out and the impacts that it may have. I don't know. It's so cool to see you doing that, but also the world to be able to see a Black woman doing something that is at the forefront of research and science. And I just get really excited about the work you all do. And that specific work to your research is fascinating. Yours too, Lauren, was in the news recently. Gosh, like excellence. Yeah, excellence. I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, I hadn't even heard of that bird until I was following you. And I'm like, wait, now I know what this woodpecker is, Yeah, the red what? I was like, I don't know if I can,
be made up.
Yeah, I was like, is this a real bird? This is a real bird. But yeah, talk to us, Lauren, about your work with what you're doing with the red cockaded. Is that correct?
Yes. Oh my goodness. You get a gold star because I can't tell you how.
Talk to us about your research on the red cockaded woodpeckers and kind of you're trying to balance studies such as like climate change and how these birds are being impacted. Top of mind, relevant, really cool, but also a success story. Yes. Talk to us a little bit about that research.
Yes, 100%. So as a PhD student, so my first year, the RCW I chose as my focal species. And so for that, I got a cool 2-for-1. So not only did I get to focus on this question about climate change and their impacts on this species' reproductive success, because we know that climate change, it's real, no matter how much people want to deny it. I'm just going to go ahead and just put it out there. That is real. So, and it's one of those things where I think a lot of scientists and researchers want to know what does it mean for various species, and especially when it comes to an endangered species. So how is this going to impact the species? I got a cool 2-for-1 where I decided to make that my research question. So that's what I've been doing now. I'm in my 4th year. And so that's what I've been doing, throughout my time here as a PhD, as a graduate student. Also, I got to do this really cool thing where I got to give back to conservation. And so I was able to go out and actually participate and help with the monitoring and the management of this species. And it was it's amazing. It gives it a whole new light when you're, working with this huge data set. So this species has been studied I'm working with a data set that is like 40 plus year. It's a high quality data set, probably one of the best data sets on an endangered species. And so it gave it it got more personal for me to be able to see where this data was coming from. And for me to be able to say that I contributed to this data and I contributed to this data set, and it all just makes a whole bunch more sense and everything. It was a joy to, I developed a love for not only this bird bird, but also the longleaf pine ecosystem. So this bird is endemic to the longleaf pine ecosystem. So this is where they live year round. This is where they thrive. So we get into various things, right? Like prescribed fire. So we learn all about that and how this ecosystem thrives on prescribed fire. And then that's beneficial for this species and so many other plant and animal species within this ecosystem. So it's amazing. There was a lot of various components that I got to learn with my research. And my research is, continuing to be ongoing. So I don't have any final things to say yet until, the dissertation is done. I will say that it's what you said, Dexter, this is a conservation success story. On October 24th of this year, this species was downlisted from endangered to threatened. Now it is a threatened species. And let's talk about that for a minute, because I feel like it's 50-50 with how people are feeling. I tried to, I tried to get people to see, especially those that gave back to conservation and who have been working with these species for years, don't jump to the conclusion that, oh my gosh, this is a horrible decision. Why would they do this? Take time to recognize, that your efforts got us to this point. Your efforts got that species to this point. And so take some time to celebrate and recognize that. But then also, I feel like people also need to take time to kind of sit back and take it all in before we jump to any major conclusions. I took some time to read everything that was written up in the Federal Register, and it sounded like to me, and I've talked to some more experts in the field, that it seems like nothing that much really is changing. And you have to think that like the management for this species, a lot of other species in that ecosystem relies on the same management. It's almost like, it's a win-win, right? Like we can't just stop the management for this bird or else other species are going to be, impacted as well. The one thing that I could probably see, and this is just me speculating, changing could be potentially funding. This species has received a lot of funding over the years for its recovery. And so now with this new listing, it could very well be that people or funding sources see it as like, oh, well, it's not, endangered anymore. So that's a sign. So it could be that not that much or not a lot of money, as before is being filtered into this species. So that could be really the only thing that I could think of as being the like major change. But I mean, other than that, I'm just really trying to get people to see, and for the most part they are, but especially my colleagues and people that I work with, I've tried to get them to see that, hey, recognize your, all of your efforts into this species is how it got to this point. So don't throw that out the window just because of just this one decision.
The work is ongoing.
It's ongoing, and it's going to stay ongoing. And so it has been a joy for me because working with this species in particular, I think has provided me with a strong platform to not only advocate for the species, but advocate for diversity in, the natural sciences. I bring students out with me when I do my field work in the summer. I bring students out with me to the field. They get to see what it's all about, all the work that gets put into it. And it's similar to what you said with Murry, right? People are seeing both of us in this field as being success stories, and you don't see that often. As we all know on this call, you do not see that often. Really, I mean, it's a big job. It's really rewarding at the end of the day because we get so many messages from people who look like us who are just thrilled by like, oh, if you can be successful in this space, then I can too. So
if you can see it, you can be it.
Exactly.
Lauren, I want to say this. I know the research is ongoing. Just promise us that you won't stop going out into the field and sharing photos of you looking like a super spy with your little portable scope out there. That I swear I laugh. So every time I see it, I'll be thinking you like Charlie's Angel out there, like doing like little super spy in the woods. So it's so funny.
I'll tell you what, man, the first time she made one of those funny videos climbing up the tree with the ladder, that I was, we talked to Isaiah Scott around like the value of being able to translate what you're doing into something that people can consume and learn. And that, I'm going to tell you what I put in my show notes. I put in my show notes that you are quite possibly have done more on global social media scale to spread the good word about red-cockaded woodpeckers than any other human. I literally wrote that in my show notes because I don't know, like literally right now, when I think of that species, I think of you. And I can see the babies in your hand. I can see you reaching in the hole. I can see you on the ladder. right?
I love it.
And
I love it.
Yeah, I remember I went to go see them just north of Wilmington, North Carolina. I was down there on vacation with my family, and I was standing in a forest full of red-cockaded woodpeckers and Bachman sparrows, and I was like, "Oh, this is what it feels like. This is amazing,
it's
right?"
It's an amazing feeling. It is an amazing feeling, and I want to touch on something right quick that you said too about communicating the science that we do to a broader audience. I can tell people as much as I want that, oh yeah, this is what my typical day of field work is like. I go out and I climb trees and I band birds, and people are like, what? Like, what does that look like? So anytime that I can put it on video, or I can just video anything that I'm doing, even if it's just using my spotting scope to scope out a bird and read color bands or climbing trees, anytime that I can put a video to it and describe what I'm doing, it makes people, I think to me, it makes people care about it even more. And that's what I mean. And it's like what you said, like anytime someone goes somewhere and they see a red-cockaded woodpecker, or they hear one, or they think that downy woodpecker, in their backyard might be a RCW, they always tend to let me know.
Yeah,
but I love it. I
teach science communication at the University of Wisconsin.
Yes.
And I always tell my students, if they want to communicate science, show the work.
Show it.
Right? Not
show
the boring, I'm in a lab with a beaker. It doesn't work though, right? What works is Lauren climbing a tree.
That's right.
And sneaking around, trees with her spotting scope and like looking like she's in like a new Call of Duty game or something, Yes. Show the work. It's fascinating. It makes people maybe want to Google. We always tell people, Google this, Google that. But I can't tell you, if some little black girl sees you doing research, she might say, hey,
that's it.
This is for me, Murry. Some little black girl, they're reading your children's books that are just wonderful. This is for me. So like when I see what you all are doing, you all are walking the walk, and you're doing it in a way, you're young, you're at the forefront of a lot of these things. When I saw that article, the first person I thought about was Lauren. Murry, when I see your books, it makes me think, like, how do you hope that your books inspire the next generation of not only bird lovers, but environmental advocates?
I hope they get energized, because I've seen firsthand right now as a professor in my department. I'm the first Black professor in the wildlife department at Mississippi State. And so some students just seeing this change within the department, they're like coming into my office just to ask questions, just to hang out, and are getting really engaged with just the research that I'm doing. Some of them, even if they're not like interested in birds that much, are just like, hey, I want to work with you just because of my identity and like how I show up in that space. And so I'm hoping that with my books, and in addition to the work that I do, can reach that wider audience and get more people inspired and involved in the outdoor spaces, either recreationally or professionally.
And then on top of that, like how many books, especially science books and nature books, do you see a person of color? So it's
exactly.
My copy's on my bookshelf over here. It's great. It's great.
When I got this book in the mail, I was so like, I might as well have been 5, because I took it with me one day birding, and I sat in the field and read it in the field outside in the afternoon sunlight. It is stunning on almost every sense that a child could have. The colors, the movement of the illustration, illustrated by Tamisha Anthony, right? Kudos.
Yes. Huge shout out to my illustrator.
Yes, absolutely insane. But the book, again, is called Sparrow Loves Birds. You can find it through the Hatchet Book Group, or even on wherever you get your books generally. But Sparrow is just page 1, curious, ready to go, right? Ready to get outside,
ready to go.
And this is where the words in the book and the layers the journey that the book takes you on, the words in the illustration really complement each other so well, because you get to the first pages and you can read the words and you're like, all right, cool. She's about to go out in the suburban neighborhood. You're going to look for some stuff, and you can see the motion and the colors moving through the page, and you're immediately seeing birds on the page, right? And when I showed this book to my son, when I read it to my son, right, he was calling out some of the birds that we see in our yard. Like he knows what a cardinal is, and that's on one of the first pages. Like, did you and the illustrator, Tamisha, did you both come to that before you got it all together? Did that just kind of evolve as you, like, did you write the text first and then she drew it? Like, how, because it is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so that process was long but very fun. I wrote the text first, and so found the illustrator later on. And I was very intentional about wanting to have another young Black person on as my illustrator, just to like further celebrate what this book is really about, and Black people in the outdoors enjoying the experience and having fun. And as she was doing the illustrations for this, we were having, I guess, two main goals. One, trying to keep it like, as accurate as possible, because, it's supposed to be a beginner's field guide. We want the markings to be pretty close to what you would see in real life, but also keeping that aspect of fun and whimsy throughout it as well. So it's not like, a boring textbook, learn your birds. Like, we want it to be fun and enjoyable. And I want to say that just Tamisha was not a bird person when she first came on, but she told me in working through this book, she is now a birder, and she got her own little pair of binoculars, and she's
plus
out there
one,
now.
plus one for the birders.
Well done. As if you didn't have enough wins to celebrate. Let's go. Y'all making new birders too.
So me and Tamisha we want to share that joy with children, and every single review from like parents say, I read this to my kid and they love it. I read this to my kid and now we're outside. We read it together outside every night and we call out the birds as they go by. There was one review who this person has a 1-year-old and they point to the pages and say duck at every bird. And it's like the most adorable thing. It's like, we're going to work on learning the actual names, but they love just the book and the story of it too. And so every single review that I get just warms my heart, and I can't wait to keep on with this series.
Make sure y'all get that book. You can actually see it sitting on the shelf behind Murry back there. That beautiful artwork there, and the representation of this book. It warms my bird nerd heart. I would just say that it is fascinating. Let's shift a little bit. We're gonna get out of here. We won't keep y'all all day, even though I want to keep talking to you. I
really do want to keep you for another hour. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, like this is so good.
Y'all done a great job. We covered a lot of ground.
Yes, that's what we try to do, and we try to do it in a way where we're laughing and we're having fun, and then you look up and you're like, holy cow, we've been talking for 45 minutes about this stuff, and it doesn't feel like it. Like I said, the work is what matters. And what's been your most memorable or surprising experience in the field?
I have like two floating around in my head, and I'm just like, I don't want to pick the sad one. So it's like, let me go with the funny one, I guess. I don't know.
You can go with either one.
When I was a grad student, my field site was in rural North Carolina, a snow camp. And I was working outside every day in this barn. And it's this rural area, Confederate flags, Trump supporters just all over the place. I promise this is the funny story, not the sad one. So as part of my just like, personal safety precautions, I would bring my dog to the field all the time. And so I would be like working. My dog is just like sniffing, digging, whatever dogs do. And there was partway through one of our field seasons, there's cows on this farm. And so the owner of the farm had put up an electric fence to keep the cows in one area. And so I saw that it's an electric fence. And I'm just like, how electric is this electric fence? No. So just like, I don't want to like touch it. I'm just going to leave it there. And I'm worried about my dog too. It's just like, well, he is supposed to have better senses than me. So if I know it's electric, he knows it's electric, and we're good. About 30 minutes later, I'm up on a ladder, not nearly as tall as Lauren's ladders. I have very short ladders. I'm up on the ladder and I just hear this huge like dog scream from like distance in the field. And I'm like, oh no, Loki, he touched the fence. I immediately fall off the ladder. He's just he's galloping back towards me, like just scared, ears flat. And I'm just like, okay, clearly you're not a country dog. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to train you not to touch the fence. But now you know. So just little dog encounters out in the field have been like my favorite part. I miss bringing my dog to work every day.
Loki was going to learn that day.
He learned his lesson.
Loki.
He matches up to his name.
We love it.
What a great story.
We love it.
What about you, Lauren?
Yeah, you know what? I would say for me the most memorable day was when we had PBS out filming myself and my research. That was a really great day. One, I was like, Mama, I made it. I'm like, I'm gonna be on PBS. Like, I want that. But
it's just me and Big Bird on PBS now.
Hey, that's the next step. We're gonna be on Sesame Street talking about RCW.
That's right. Speak it into existence.
I would say that was the most memorable day for me in the field. And then also too, I got to film alongside one of my colleagues. So he works for the Wildlife Resources Commission, a huge lover and very knowledgeable about RCWs and longleaf pine. I kind of dragged him into it, so he wasn't really expecting it, but I was kind of like, hey, I'm gonna have a film crew out here. You want to be? And at first, like, I knew he was like, oh my gosh, like, what is this going to do? But then he absolutely, like, it was a day full of nothing but pure joy. So we got to film me climbing trees. We got to film me walking back and forth with my 4 ladder sets about 5 million times to get a great shot. So I got my exercise that day. That was great. But really, and so from that, I cannot tell you how many people ended up reaching out to me, and they'll still reach out to me, that have said, like, oh my gosh, like I have, my daughter, she saw you on PBS and she was so thrilled to see a person of color on PBS, but then also you doing what you were doing. We were like, oh my gosh, what is she doing? We don't know, but that looks so cool. So again, going back to, as you were talking about with Ike, and then Murry has it with her book, and then I do it with all the forms of science communication that I can do, whether it be, being on a wonderful podcast like y'all's, or on TV, or writing for a blog,
no, I'm blushing
right?
again.
Like, there we go. Another check mark for Lauren. Got it. But it's that really, any way that we can continue. And then, with Dexter, with you teaching your science communication course, I cannot advocate enough, especially to scientists and researchers, to incorporate science communication in some way, shape, or form into your work. Like, some people probably look at it as extra work. We all 4 of us on here look at it as rewarding work. Like, we want to take what we do beyond, our academic publications, and we want people to really understand why we do what we do and why we love it. So any kind of, science communication that you can bring to a wider audience and, have them enjoy what you do and have them learn about what you do. That whole, PBS segment, I was rooting for. They hadn't done one in probably like 10 years. So I was like on RCW. So I was like, oh, this is perfect timing. I'm like, this is perfect. So a little update, but also showing a person that looks like me. And so, and then, so on top of that, getting that out of it, and then also showing what I do, showing what a typical day in the field is like. It's like combining all of that. So anytime like all 4 of us are doing that, it's so rewarding. So I continue to advocate, to people, like, just do it. Just go for it, because you're changing so many minds and opening up so many minds, especially when we're talking about conservation. We want people to care about conservation.
Absolutely.
So, it's how you have to hook people nowadays.
Gotta inspire that next generation of scientists.
That's it.
Like,
That's it.
Yes.
That's
well, we are trying to do that on this podcast. We talked about, heavy dose of science communication already. We talked to Ike, who was a young Black man that's studying science communication out at Cornell. Myself being a teaching it at the University of Wisconsin as a full-time faculty member.
Yes.
We are changing what people think about it. I mean, Jason talking about working in vaccines for almost 2 decades, but talking about why science communication was needed, but it was not available at one of the most important times in our country. And
Still needed.
it's so needed. So thank you both for, I mean, just showing the work, being there for our people, and creating opportunities for people that you may didn't have as you were coming up, as you continue to do the work. But before we wrap up, I would love to end here. What exciting projects or initiatives are on the horizon for Field Inclusive, and how can listeners get involved and support the amazing work that you all are doing?
Yes. So right now we are working really hard at improving and expanding our workshop offerings. So we do both virtual options and in-person options. And we're working so that there are different modules that you can add on depending on what your needs are, different lengths of time, different activities that you can add on. And we are really hoping to be able to cater to everybody who has asked us for a workshop so far, many returning customers and a whole host of new customers that we're hoping to get to and share this workshop with. And so being able to support us in doing that, we are interested. Of course, if you are able to make a donation to Field Inclusive, we highly, highly appreciate that. Almost 100% of our donations go right back into producing of products that we're giving to somebody else, whether that be our workshops or our scholarships. Barely, and the other 1 or 2% is for our operating costs. So everything that you give is going to a good purpose.
I mean, for y'all to only be operating at 1-2%, make sure y'all go show that support, because that is absolutely incredible for a nonprofit. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Small operating costs. And then 2, we are also looking for volunteers who are interested in getting involved, whether that be learning how to be a workshop trainer, or even just advocating to get your group or your institution interested in taking one of our trainings. That's a huge help as well. Spreading the word is super important for us still.
Wow. I can't imagine a better way to wrap that up. And I'm going to link everything in the show notes, so you will be able to find both of them on multiple platforms to contribute, to support, to share. I love hearing that you guys have a long list of groups that want to work with you. I hope that just continues in perpetuity and exponentially. Thank you both very much for spending some time with us. I'm a little bit starstruck. I'm just trying to smile and enjoy myself here. I hope we did it justice for folks to really see the amount of work and, as important as that is, the amount of joy that you both bring to what you do, both in academia and outreach in the nonprofit world, is absolutely inspiring. So thank you both very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for providing us.
And thanks to both of you for continuing with this platform. It's going to be super important now more than ever for us to keep talking, keep doing what we're doing, and spreading that joy. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody for joining us today on the Bird Joy podcast. We hope you all have enjoyed exploring the world of birding with Lauren and Murry today from Field Inclusive. Shout out to the BIPOC Birding Club of Wisconsin. Fall and winter events are going to be a lot of fun. Y'all know how we get down. We bird 12 months a year. Check out BIPOCbirdingclub.org.
Yes. And for the homies in Philly, as usual, incolorbirding.org, we will be getting out. You can come hang out and we can talk Field Inclusive, and I can show you Lauren's Instagram page and we can hang out. Also, I will say it again, fieldinclusive.org. That is for everyone in the country. But if you haven't looked yet, you are near Raleigh and want to make a trip, Field Inclusive Week, January 12th through 18th. So definitely check it out. This was another fun one.
It was. And please share, subscribe, and shout out the pod to all your fellow birders. Help us spread a little bird joy. Let's go.